When I heard about Tony possibly being interested in working for state government, I said, let's get him in immediately. I had not met him before. And I had several other people who said, I've worked with him either in the military, I've worked with him as the superintendent, I've worked with him all over. I just kept hearing these people, you've got to talk to Tony Taylor. So we talked initially, and someone called him up, and he says, yeah, I might be interested in either the head of public safety, where Karen Shanahan is, or being my education advisor, because he had such experience in both education and in public safety, with his incredible military experience in both Afghanistan and Iraq. Well, he interviewed with two groups of people, one with me and then with a group of about 8 people, including Doug Walsh, I think, was one of your interviewers. And when we all came back in the room together after he left, all the other people said, you've got to hire him. He blew us away. You've got to hire him, Governor-elect. Please hire this guy. Which space are you going to put him into? Education, or are you going to put him into public safety? And I went, neither one. And they literally went, are you nuts? Are you crazy? Is this the kind of decision maker you're going to be? This is a talented leader you cannot let go. And I said, DOT. DOT. And the reason I said DOT is the more I talked to him, he was just a natural leader. Just a natural leader and natural decision maker. I also saw that he was a very, very quick learner. He knew a variety of subjects and he knew the details of subjects. And then, the more I talked to him about his experience in the military, in both Afghanistan and Iraq, and even in Wake County superintendent, he knew a heck of a lot about transportation. And I figured if he can build roads under fire in Afghanistan, maybe he can do it in North Carolina. What do you think? So I called him up a day or two later, and I said, General, I definitely want to hire you. And he said, which area? And I said, DOT. And there was a pause there. And we literally had a very long discussion. And he said, let me think about it. And then he called me back, and we started talking about the strengths and weaknesses of it. And he said, I'm with you 100%. I'd love to join you in your administration, DOT secretary. So that's how it happened. It was not planned. It was not something he sought. But I am so pleased I made that decision. And I'm also proud of each one of you. He has given you, and he gives updates, as he just did, raving reviews of the DOT employees and their commitment. And I gave him 3 or 4 major responsibilities. I don't have my teleprompter here, so I'm winging it right here. But the major responsibility was this. I said, find out a better way to spend the limited money we have and figure out a better way to do it to make sure we take in consideration safety, congestion, economic development. Because I was always concerned about the equity formula since 1989. So I gave him, that was one of his major responsibilities. I didn't tell him how to do it, what to do. I just gave him a general broad parameter. The second thing I asked him to do was, I said, I want you to develop a 25-year transportation and infrastructure plan for the state of North Carolina. And I want you to present it to the people of North Carolina, including me, and then figure out a plan to implement it. He's working on that right now. This is tying in our metro areas with the rural areas, with our ports, with our airport, with rural, with urban, with education, with medical. Have some type of integrated transportation system that we can look at and say 25 years from now, this will be our goal. Because 25 years of life of a state is nothing. But we ought to show the public what our vision is, what our plan is. Now I've asked him to present that plan and maybe even longer. The third is this, integrate every bit of your work into several areas. First is economic development and jobs. I want him to be attached to the hip with Sharon Decker, that you saw right at the end, Secretary Decker. And because I want economic development and DOT to be working hand in hand together to make sure there's integration between getting people to and from work, getting products to and from their destinations so we can increase the number of jobs in North Carolina. So whatever he does, I want him to talk to Sharon Decker. Whatever Sharon Decker does, I want him to talk to Tony Taylor. Another thing I asked him, which was kind of unique, I asked him to work with the Department of Cultural Resources. Susan Klutz, Secretary Klutz, a former mayor of Salisbury, an old friend of mine. And I used to work with her when I was mayor of Charlotte. And I wanted to integrate softening some of our hard infrastructure of transportation. you know how we build these big ugly bridges everywhere and we have these walls and we have all this stuff. I said, can you integrate art with transportation? Kind of like the way Jim Martin, Dottie Martin, many years ago, put wildflowers in the middle of the roads, and y'all have a great program here. I went to your awards several months ago. Can we put art into our bridges and hard infrastructure? I did this when I was mayor of Charlotte with Mass Transit. We built some of the ugliest walls and everything. I said, is there any way we can soften it, as opposed to ruining the atmosphere and quality of life wherever you're putting a road or a rail or whatever? And so he's going to be working with Susan Klutz going, how can we soften the hard infrastructure and cement, noise, and everything else that we have to deal with, because you're going through neighborhoods, you're going through towns, you're going through cities, you're going through fields. And we want to keep that beauty as much as possible. And is there a way we can integrate art into it? A couple of other things. DMV. This is personal with me. When I turned 50-something, mid-50s, I had to go get my driver's license renewed. And I waited an hour and 45 minutes. And I was not pleased with that. And I think we can do better. And one of the big directives I've given him is to make sure DMV and all of our operations are more customer friendly. You are the one area of government, and there are a few others, but this is a main area of government where you're really running a retail operation. And you know, in retail operations, if the customer doesn't perceive they're getting good and efficient, quick service, regardless of the good people which we have there, they lead to the competition. Now, the only sad news is they have nowhere else to go but us. But we shouldn't work that way. I'll tell you what happened with me. I was with the governor of Virginia at some event, and the head of Coca-Cola Consolidated turned to me and said, do you know all of our trucks are registered in Virginia? And I was with the governor of Virginia at the time. And their headquarters are in North Carolina, Coca-Cola Consolidated, but all their trucks are registered in Virginia. And it was partly due to cost and customer service. And I'm going, wait a minute, that's a signal to us that people can go elsewhere. And we're losing that revenue, and is there anything we can do to recover that revenue and make a North Carolina company actually have their trucks registered in North Carolina? And if they're not doing it, why aren't they doing it? And what can we do to satisfy that customer? And that's the way we have to be thinking. The competition is everywhere. And Nikki Haley in South Carolina, the governor there, and Bill Haslam in Tennessee, and Governor McDonald, they want to take our business. They want to take our jobs. They want to brag about their customer service and their roads and their rail and their low prices. That's our competition. That's just next door. That's not including the rest of the United States and the rest of the world. We cannot take our success for granted. We've always got to look to do things better, more efficiently, and more effectively, especially when finances are very limited at this point in time. So those are 4 or 5 minor little things I wanted him to accomplish in 7 months. Next month is 7 months. This is not a sprint, it's a marathon, but there has to be a sense of urgency to continually get better and have continuous improvement. Because the competition is doing that right now across the nation and across the world. So I welcome your ideas, we welcome your input, we welcome you thinking out of the box, we welcome your customer service, and we're all in this together. We're not Republicans, we're not Democrats, we're not independents. We work for the state of North Carolina, we are public servants. I know a lot of you would like to be paid more, I'd like to be paid more, but that's not why we're in this. We're in this for public service. And my job is to make a difference for the next generation of North Carolinians so they can have the same great quality of life that so many of us have enjoyed in this state. And we're working too, by the way, to help increase your pay down the road, but we got to build the economy right now. We're hurting. I'm in budget talks right now. It's tough. It is really, really tough. And part of it, we have unemployment in some of our cities and towns right now, 15 to 20%, where people cannot find work right now. We've got to find jobs for people. And those of us who have jobs, we've got to do the best we can. Because I know there are people who want my job, and there are probably people who want your job. So let's do the best we can and do everything we can to perform better and and represent the North Carolina the best way we can.